What is up, Outpost Gray family? Guess what? We are live, obviously, because you're watching this, and I am here live making this happen. Why is this a big deal? Because I haven't gone live in over a year. I quit going live. When was it, you guys? It's been like grad school last year, like October, November. I see familiar faces in the chat. The gang is back. It is back. And I gotta just make a quick mention. You guys see this wonderful coloring in my hair? This is this is wonderful Ude Naturel. I got highlights. Be jealous. I figured I'd rock them today. Oh my God, I'm so pumped. Just is in the house. We got Carrie, James. I have my UK friend that's popping in. You guys are amazing. Oh my God. Thank you for the support. All right. So I'm not going to jammer a whole bunch because we got a lot of resumes to get through. So why are we here? We are here for a live stream resume review. Thankfully, the community came together when I put out a post a few weeks ago, and there was an individual that actually had reached out to me. Hopefully she'll be in the chat. And she reached out to me, and I get bombarded with messages in LinkedIn, and I do my very, very best to try to respond to them. And I had an individual, she reached out to me and she asked me if I would review a resume. And I get these all the time, but there was something about when she asked me, I was on a metro heading into the office, and I said, you know what? Why don't I do this in a collective environment and start trying to do these quarterly? Because I don't have time to do them. I want to be able to do them for everybody, but I just don't have the time. So I put out a message. You guys came together, and we've got 14 resumes that we're going to be reviewing today. And we have actually a special co-host with us today, and you guys might know him, that'll be joining the show. So we're going to be pumping these out. Now, if you are new to the show, welcome. I am Jack Scott. I am a cyber professional. I work in the GRC space, and I love NIST. So welcome to the show. It would also mean the world to me if you hit that subscribe button. You became part of the community. We are a welcoming community. And I truly think that Outpost Gray, we have a lot of overlap with other communities, but I think it's an amazing community. So if you are new here, make sure to drop your name into the chat and welcome yourself to the show. All right. So without further ado, are you guys ready to make this happen? Last thing I'm going to say. So we're going to be going through these. Go ahead. I may or may not put chat up on the side. I'm probably not going to because we need the screen to go through the resume reviews. I'll kind of see what it looks like. But go ahead and drop your questions in the chat. I'm going to be monitoring them as well as helping with the review. But if you can, put a capital Q at the front of your questions so I can see them quicker. We are going to try to go through this and also catch those questions as we go through because this is live. So why not do that? All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and get our amazing co-host on this show. Here we go. What up, Joe?
Let's go. Let's go.
I'm pumped. Oh my God. Every time we're on a show together, I'm just like, we just bring the energy. We should consider doing a show together at some time, like legit.
Oh yeah. I love being the least cool person on the show. So this fits my preference. No problem.
Everybody's hyped for this. Oh my gosh. Are you sure you can handle this? This is going to be a lot of resumes that we're going to be pumping through.
No, this fills my soul. This fills my bucket because as I got out of recruiting, I do in a strange, weird way miss being anal about resumes. It's like the only thing in my life that kind of filled that weird bucket. And yeah, it's nice to be able to do this and kind of talk through different scenarios. That's what people are dealing with every day.
It is. What do you think? Do you think we should have got a third person for this? Do you think it should have just been you and I?
Probably, because you and I agree probably way too much. I think that we're way too much on the same level, and there could be some things missed based on that. So I'd always be down for having somebody else.
Maybe we have somebody we can bring up on the stage. What do you guys think in the chat? You guys think we should pull on a surprise guest for you? I think we should make this a little lively.
I'm down.
I mean, why not? All right, let's do this. Who do we have behind the curtain? Dun 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 dun. All right, hey, hello, welcome. How are you? You're on mute. Somebody was gonna do it.
I just had to make sure we were in 2023.
I love it. Yes.
Hi, how are you guys?
Amazing. Happy to have you here. And I know the community is probably like, wait, who is this person? So sure, tell a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Dre Comstock. I've actually been in the recruiting space for about 7 years now. So I'm with a company called Refactor Talent, and I'm a senior client partner there. But before I was a client partner and on the sales side, I was in recruiting for about 5 years and did mainly focused on developers, cloud engineers, DevSecOps, things like that. So I'm well versed in that space. So yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Everybody's excited for you being here. So welcome. All right. And I got a hi, Joe. Everybody's like, Joe
Oh, hey,
Hudson. Oh,
Daniel.
look at this. Oh my God, you're somebody's hero.
Oh,
What?
Zach.
Zach,
Zach,
you're his hero.
goofball.
Zach's
Not
my
after
hero.
today. I'll be far off in the back on the rankings after today, I have a feeling.
Never. All right. So we got a lot to crank out. So what we're going to do, because we've got individuals that sent us, let me make sure I put the one document over here, a resume over here. So everybody provided me resumes that should not have PII on it. And so what we're going to do is start from the top and we're going to go through these. We'll look at individuals provided me specific roles that a lot of them, not all of them, provided us specific roles as what they were kind of going after to allow us to customize our feedback. So this first one that we have right here, let me see if I can enlarge this because that is pretty far away. I hope that's close enough. Let me know, Chad, if that works for you. I can always bring it in closer. But this one right here that we've got, this individual is going for, and he's applying for an application security engineer. So a DevSecOps position. First thought, what do you guys think? Like first thought is resume.
Easy to scan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing I did have a question about is it says it has a career break at the top, and then also you've been with your company until 2022. So I'm like curious, how has that worked? Because it looks like those dates are overlapping. So if the career break has been since August 2022, I would put that in there or update that from where that's been, because it looks like you were working. But then those dates are overlapping. So that would be my first question when looking at the resume. But other than that, I think the resume has some really good keywords of what you were doing, like working with Docker, Terraform, Kubernetes, infrastructure as code, and things like that. But that is like my first thing that like stands out to me.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Just typo. Probably meant to put September 2022. And
yeah.
I do think it's great that they addressed it. The bullets, saying took care of my loved ones. That can mean different things. I mean, it could mean that you stepped away because you were dedicated to taking care of a sick parent or something. And that is not a negative. I mean, that is just part of life. And honestly, I think that's a good connector that many people that are working for companies you're looking at have been through. And it could be the thing that someone reads that on the resume and is like, I had to do that a couple of years ago. That was tough. I'm going to talk to this person. It looks like they've got some great experience. So no, yeah, that definitely is the first thing to address, though. It's a good catch.
So links too, if you're going to have links, always make sure that they go exactly where they're supposed to go. This could be an error because he pulled the PII information out, LinkedIn as well, but that's what I'm assuming. And then I was going to add one more thing to career break. I like that because I've seen these career breaks and they don't actually explain still like functionally what they were doing as far as progressing within that career field. So I think that was a good job of putting all of that information down here. And I think the bullet points are good. I think everything looks really clean overall, though. Moving down really quickly. So we've got after that, he shows certifications. Do you think this is kind of a question sometimes that people say certifications at the top or certifications at the bottom, or does it depend on the role?
Sometimes for me, I like them at the top. So like you can see them right when you're looking at it. I also think like a hiring manager has about 8 seconds to look at a resume, so that sometimes they are looking at that. But I like mine at the top, but sometimes if it's a longer resume, I will put them at the bottom. I think it just depends on the position and how the resume is formatted.
Okay.
And the quality of how strong are those certifications for the specific job you're trying to go for. If they are really big benefits, then you want to have that hit them immediately. I think with the certs that he's got here, I think that those are great, but I also don't think from an application security engineer job, those are going to be ones that get this person over the top. And so where they are is probably fine for this resume. At least they're on the first page. That's good to see.
So bullet points, and we'll move on from here. But somebody brought up, and I agree with this, like assessment, bullet points don't follow a numerical format. One has 3, one has 1,000,000. I always hear like 3 to 5 bullet points. I understand why he would have 3 on the career break, but then he has a substantial amount. And this is probably where obviously he spent a lot of time, but he also spent some time here and he only has 2. Do you have any thoughts as far as like the bullet pointing and what kind of formatting it should follow?
I will say that I don't have any problem with the first part or the second part. I think because he has so much room on the second page, he could have absolutely elaborated on the Google, et cetera, spot. Like he could have had that. He could have honestly mentioned his certifications in his summary if he wanted to, and then kept the certifications on the second page if he wanted, but then filled up that whole rest of that first page with more bullets on the 11 years of experience he had. And honestly, he could go find 3, 4 that are really applicable to the job that he's going to be going for.
Love it. All right, let's move on. Joe, you're getting shout outs in the chat. You the man.
Lacey. I met Lacey last weekend, and he is he's one of those people that you meet and you're like, man, I'm not that cool. I thought I was cool. Lacey's awesome.
We got big up Joe like over here. Joe Hudson takes sunlight to be like them. Oh my gosh. This is awesome, man. You got like a whole fan club out there.
That's funny.
All right. So next one we've got, let me see if this individual, we don't have any information as far as like a particular role that they're going after. So we'll do this as a generic cybersecurity resume. So first thoughts. This is it. 1 page. Yeah.
This is a resume. I would put the certs at the top.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The experience is probably the last thing to put on this resume. He's got some great tools, certifications, education. Clearly, that's where the story is. That's what's telling the story. I'm not usually a fan of having the whole left side be taken by just a couple words in a column style. It takes up a lot of space. But for a resume like this, where you're probably having to try to fill space, it actually works well when you don't have tons of experience. But I like that, like he went into detail about his experience at Red Lobster. I mean, a lot of people, they don't do that. They hide that kind of experience if they feel like it's irrelevant, or they don't even put bullet points. I think that the best thing to do there is to see, is there any specific, just professional skills, working in a day-to-day as part of a team, working with leadership, et cetera, to hit on certain deliverables. Yeah. These are things that translate more than the specifics of like ingredients and seasonings.
Yeah.
So could maybe some tweaks, but I do like that he elaborated on that.
Yeah, I was going to say something similar. I would, if I was this individual, Larry, I would go in here and I would talk about, you've been a prep cook and you've been working there for quite a long time. You've definitely got some leadership skills there. So when you're doing this work, try to think of, and you can even Google, like, you could even look up different roles within prep cook to understand, like different leadership roles within prep cook, to get keywords, or use ChatGPT, which we'll talk about that, on like finding those leadership keywords to put in here to help him really refine those bullets. And I would go back to the bullet point thing. I would clean this up a little bit so it's not so much a paragraph, but instead take up some of this white space. And I would put like 3 different bullets here explaining what you've done, how you're leading the team, how this impacts the organization or restaurant.
Same for the overview. Maybe break it up into like two paragraphs, a little bit of a different chunk. But yeah, he could be using different verbs and words like teamwork, communication, preparation, planning, dealing with a high intensity environment. Obviously, prep cook is not a easy job to just walk in and be relaxed on every day. But also be prepared for the question of why so long. What kept you there for so long, and kind of highlight, like, if you're going to be at a company for 11 years or 15 years or 16 years or whatever it is, talk about why it was so great in a way that explains why you stayed for so long. I think that's a good human opportunity.
Yeah, Jesse, I like it. Find a way to word it. Food service, 100% helped me land my first IT cyber job. It's the same for the military, Jesse. We have to figure out and learn how we take the skills that we had in the military and apply them here. So I think overall, very good job. I would just move some things over. Yeah, certs at the top. And then really highlight in the overview, I think he did a good job with explaining like 17 years of excellent communication, multitasking, and teamwork. Like, that's great. That's a great way of leading in. I would make it maybe a little bit stronger of kind of what your skill sets are. Otherwise, anything else before we move on? All right.
Maybe just the skills. There could be an opportunity to elaborate on some of the skills. If there's some home practice, you could translate that to skills and, personal training or whatnot, and then have a project or two that you maybe personally did with Active Directory or anything that involves the technical stuff that you can elaborate on. If you have the space, it's not going to hurt you to elaborate on it.
Correct. I agree. Yeah. All right, let's do this. Number 3. Let's move on to number 3. All right. So let me see what I wrote here. I have an Excel document behind the scenes for anybody like, what is she looking at? How to incorporate. Okay, so this individual asked me a question. I'm interested when you do the reviews, how to incorporate the skills obtained during the certification on a resume. For example, the GRC analyst class. I should really wrap this text. Hold on. It's really hard to read. Holy moly, Jax.
Oh, and just like including the different sort of bullets that go within the GRC, especially even the course.
Yep, exactly. I have the knowledge, just not the years of experience. Okay, so this individual, this was actually Sharn. I think that's how you say her name. She's the one that why we're doing this in the first place. So she had reached out to me. She had asked this question because she's got certifications, maybe not the hands-on experience. So how do you really explain that you've got some of that experience through coursework? And I think this is a really valid question because there's a lot of individuals out there that have the same issue.
Well, I have taken the course and I'm familiar, with a lot from that course. Like I learned a lot about GRC from that course. And up top where it says skills, if you don't have the experience, you can still elaborate and put some of the skills that you feel like you've obtained and learned that are more relevant for that course. So if you're talking about, instead of adaptability, for example, you could put instructional governance. Instead of communication, you could put cyber risk, practical security awareness, some of the sections, so to speak, the auditing. Absolutely. There's so much from that course to learn about the life of an auditor, walking a mile in the shoes of an auditor, and who sees through the smoke of an auditor, the ones that don't have it. And so I think in that skills section, that's an opportunity to capitalize on it. I see that she's got NIST, so that's good. And obviously in her experience, she progressed quite a bit fast at her company. So there's some upside there that hits you. And I like the way she formatted that with
I do too.
Timeline.
Yeah. Jari, what do you think?
I would move, for this one, I would also move the certifications up on the resume and focus more on that and the cybersecurity initiatives. I would move that up and then maybe focus a little less on like any of the previous experience other than when they were director of human resources, manager of human resources, because that cybersecurity experience and the certs are really important. And I would have that at the top of your resume. So it's like one of the first things that you're able to see.
Yep.
I also think that I don't think you need your high school diploma on there. That I would remove that to save some space. What I've known, good rule of thumb, is unless the degree unless it's an undergrad or maybe even a master's, because organizations just sometimes want to check that box. You don't really need it. And sometimes you don't need to really take up too much space if you're just checking the box of like, I have a bachelor's, but it's in underwater basket weaving. They're just going to care that you have a bachelor. So I wouldn't go into too much detail, but some of the education, like I would consider maybe removing this. The associates of art, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to keep on there. And I don't know, like these right here, like you said, I may consider either expanding on them or removing them entirely. Because this makes it like this doesn't provide context at all. I don't think this does her any good, just having this on here as far as shopping team member, customer care. If this is going to be here, and this may be a placeholder, like it looks like it could be, but unless it can really draw on maybe leadership skills, I would consider removing them.
Yeah, but Dre, you nailed it. I mean, you could fit the certs and the extra content from the cyber probably on that first page right there at the top. And then it still just squeezes the entire human resources job on the first page. And then that second page, you could kick it off with additional experience with a couple bullets. And honestly, just based on formatting, since it's 2018 to 2023, the job before the shopper job, I mean, that ended at 2017. You could cut out the shopper job and just have it formatted to 2017. No one's going to know the difference. Yeah. And that shopper team member job is not what's going to get you the calls. So it's not necessary.
Yep. Yeah. And I would say if you're going to do that too, just like if you do have a LinkedIn and you have all of this updated on your LinkedIn, make sure that your LinkedIn does match your resume as far as positions and what you have on your resume and your LinkedIn.
Okay.
Great
All
advice.
right. Let's keep cruising. And we just got a question in chat about, is it too late to submit resumes? Yes, it is, unfortunately, but I will do another round of these. And I would say just stay tuned, because I'm going to do one in first quarter of next year. So January to March at some time, I'll do another round. And I think that was for VLOXSec proof. I probably messed up your handle. It's okay. We're still friends. All right. So I hope so. All right. So let's check this out. We need to probably go quicker because we're at like 3:20. So we're going to try to pick this up a little bit. I think first impressions overall layout is really good. There is a lot of content right around in here, but I think that starting out, it's really good before I even dive into the content.
Yeah, I would say the top, see that last sentence of the summary where it says currently pursuing an online course for cybersecurity and certifications in IT auditing, et cetera, right? I don't see that sort of explained anywhere else, right? Like the specific course. Am I wrong? Can you scroll down to the bottom and see if I missed that? Yeah, I don't see anything that specifies that. I would get rid of the dates also on the graduation there. Mainly the only time I recommend dates is if a company specifically requests someone very junior or very seasoned, and that's the only time. Otherwise, you're offering up yourself to be biased against or whatnot. Not everybody's going to do it, but the risk is there. Yeah. But I think there's a big swing and a miss here on mentioning the cyber, but that is where you can really elaborate. Even if you don't want to create fluff, but you can still tell the story about, like, what am I trying to learn in cyber? What am I learning about? What certifications am I going about? And I don't usually advise people to just vomit info on there. Here's all the things that I say I'm doing, because that can set you up for a trap. But I have really, not very much of an idea of what this person is wanting to do in cyber or what they're going for, so to speak.
Jay, what do you think?
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing about the dates on graduation. I always recommend to remove those unless it was something that was recent, like they recently graduated. But my advice is pretty much the same as far as like not really knowing where they want to go.
I said IT auditor at the top, I believe. So
yeah.
It's but that's it, and it's kind of a great opportunity to expand, like we said with the last resume, where you're putting some of the content, especially if this person is going through like the GRC masterclass again. Yeah. It's something specific to put on there that helps tell the story for people that otherwise might just have no idea.
And this is a mother who's transitioning as a stay-at-home mother. So she does have a financial industry background. And the last little bit of feedback before we jump into the other one is I would just make sure when you're going through these two, a lot of them, I think you could trim down the bullet points. There's a lot of things like assisted training new employees, troubleshoot problems to resolution. Like, these are great, but I think you can elaborate on what that means. What was the impact to the organization by you? What did you, like, provide an example? I troubleshot a problem that, I'm just speaking cybersecurity, that eliminated a vulnerability, increased overall cybersecurity maturity by 25%, like something like that, because it's not really about quality, it's about quantity of the bullets. And I think that is what I'm seeing here is a lot of bullets, but let's quantify them and let's get them more impactful.
Yeah, up top where it says that bullet where it's like managing inventory, you see responsible for managing inventory and coordinating the movement of products within the fulfillment center. If you're currently in a cybersecurity class and you're looking at the ways things are operating from a governance standpoint, or you could be asking questions and be learning things. And then in that bullet, you can sprinkle a little flavor about how you're doing this with a security mind, but agreed on those other bullets. It's elaborate or eliminate, in my opinion.
Oops. Agree. All right. We're moving on to 5 because we're only on 5 of 14 and we're almost halfway in. So let's rock, guys. All right. First impression. I like the outlining. That's a lot of data on that second page though. Oof. All right. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like the formatting of the resume. I think some of it, like on the bullet points, can be a little more elaborated on. Built like Python and PowerShell scripts. What were you building those for? Were you automating tasks? What were you doing for that network support engineer tasks? I would elaborate on that as well. Created an updated checklist. What does that really mean? So some of those I would elaborate on. And then I would also, it looks like you were there for like 2 months. Was that it says it's a full-time position. So I just make sure if you had contract or full-time positions, you're putting that, because you can still be a contractor and that be a full-time position if you're working 40 hours a week.
Yeah.
So I just make sure to elaborate on if those were contract or like direct hire positions for some of those.
So this person, just to provide you all context too, is open to a SOC analyst role. They are heavy in programming, as we can see here. I want to break out into security, and I have received some clear direction from school. Most organizations are ignoring me. That's unfortunate for that being ignored. But if you're wanting to look into the SOC role, I think that you could still do it because he has some of that technical background. But I would need to look at some of these technical skills, and I would probably encourage maybe start getting some training in the SOC. Or what would you guys say as far as this individual who has that heavy programming background wanting to pivot into SOC? What should their resume start to look like?
Well, I mean, I think it's great that they've got the development background and they want to lean on that, because we know how valuable that seems to be in every single position out there now. Like, it might be like, hey, we need somebody to clean our boat, but do you also have any programming skills just in case? Like, everybody's asking for it.
Yeah.
But when I read this resume, I interpret it as this person isn't that interested in elaborating, or not. The bullets just seem like disinterested, where it's like brainstormed ideas. Is that it? Did you come up with any good ideas? Just like the last one, just elaborating on them. But can you go up to the summary at the top? Is there a summary at the top, very top of the page? Right. So that right there, this person has a story that they communicated to us. And if we are just scanning and we don't really know what we're doing, we might not pick up on that. And so this is a great opportunity to really elaborate and say, I have this many years of experience in programming, strongest with these languages. I'm looking to parlay these skills into a security position, specifically starting out in a SOC. And you can literally talk about how you think your experience is going to translate from improving efficiencies within the SOC, being able to, basically find opportunities to save time for your SOC from a process standpoint. And that might be best for a smaller organization that doesn't have a lot in place, whereas the big companies, they've already got that down. So that's a way to start looking at who's my target audience and how can I start pitching myself to a specific audience that might need that well-rounded skill set.
Yeah, I see Splunk under technologies, but I don't think I see it in the under their jobs, like in the responsibilities. So if you're working with any tools on the cyber side, I'm sure you probably touched on some of them or just worked with them in some aspect. That should be on your responsibilities of the job and where you use those tools at. And that will help you transition into more of a SOC-based role. If you've had any of experience, I think combined with the development experience background, that would be a lot more helpful, and just elaborating on some of those bullet points.
Love it. All right, let's move into 6. What up, Kathy? Kathy Chambers in the house, everyone.
Love Kathy.
Love me some Kathy. All right, let's see if I can make this the Word. Oh, let's talk about this really quick. What do you guys think? Word or PDF? I know what Joe's going to say. Word or PDF? I got mostly PDFs, but I got a couple Word documents.
I PDFs. Every time I send something to a client, I save it as a PDF and send it to them. I only like Word if I need to edit their resume, and then I still save it as a PDF. So
Yep. No news on that one. I used to ask for Word so I could update it. I still ask for it, but I'm always sending a PDF. And something that just realizing from opening all these resumes over the years on my phone, it comes through on Word. It looks like a jumbled mess most of the time. On a PDF, it looks exactly like you want it to. A lot of recruiters are opening their resumes on their phone while they're in transition or out at lunch, and I'll get back to this person as soon as I get back to the office. Whereas if you see this mess, you might be like, I'll have to open this on my computer when I get back to the office. And by the time you get there, you could have 10 new emails, 10 new applications. It does make a difference.
Okay. So first thoughts on this. Summary is very light, in my opinion.
This person was trying to go for one page and was cramming. And that's okay, because based on the amount of experience and the graduation and everything, they probably shouldn't be going too long. But look at their experience, administrator and instructor. Where, did the original copy say where? Was it across multiple companies?
Right.
There's a, what did you what did you really teach?
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure so there's a lot to be desired here. And also at the top where it says technical certificates, that I don't know what those are, where they're from. I see the certifications, but those other certificates, those could be awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
One of them is not till next year, it looks like. So you may want to, if it's generic and doesn't have any sort of value and it's not even within a year of being completed, that's probably one to maybe consider getting rid of. But you could always mention that in the summary that you're pursuing XYZ. But yeah, that summary's not.
But they have certificates here and then certifications and training here. So if I was me, I would combine those and just get rid of certificates entirely. Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. Good call.
Jerry,
and then the projects, I would assume those are I don't know if those are with your master's program or something that you're doing on the side. I like that project's experience being there, but I would definitely elaborate on that if that's something that you were doing at school or if it's something that you do on your own time. That's something I would elaborate on.
I dig. Okay. We do have a question. I'm going to bring it up. Joe, do you mind reading it while I get the other resume up?
Yeah, for a project's lab section to save room on a resume, would providing direct links to the projects be frowned upon versus writing them out and explaining? I think try both, but I think links we've seen. I mean, when you have something that has shown you've put in additional effort, and those links can take someone to a personal page or a profile that actually is a little bit more inviting to who you really are. And you can get a much more well-rounded kind of picture of who am I talking to? How creative is this person? Are they spunky? Or do they have do they have a GitHub, for example, that says has not been updated in the last 18 months? Like these are things that can, I think, have more upside than not, especially if you're trying to cram in a resume. But I think try both. I think see which options seem to work better, because some people are not going to click the links and could miss out. Yeah,
I always say to put the link and just put a description on it too. I always go to links. I always look at portfolios. I think it helps me more visually when I'm looking at something that someone has done, and it makes me more excited to give them a call or pitch them over to a client. So
love that. Yep. All right. So this one right here, I got a note from him when he sent this over to me. My experience was into incident management, and I would like to transition my career into cybersecurity. My experience was complete into incident management and team management, though I've done a couple of certifications in cybersecurity. I'm not getting a breakthrough. So he's probably having a hard time and a challenge breaking in. So we'll take a look. First thing, though, I want to get your guys' opinion. I have heard various different things as far as having a photo on the resume. What do you guys think?
I say leave the photo off.
Leave it off. Okay.
Yeah.
Usually I would have to agree. I think one good thing here is he picked a photo that makes me feel like I would like to talk to this guy.
Same.
So if you're going to I have had some photos where I'm like, have you any interest in getting a call back? Because you look very angry and mad all the time. But this guy looks so friendly and inviting that it shouldn't hurt too much. But I agree with Jure. Usually get it off. And honestly, there can be some formatting issues when you're pulling in the resumes to different applicant tracking systems when there are images included. So the risk reward is usually lower. Plus, he could be judged purely just based on what he looks like. Someone could judge that.
Yeah, so unfortunately, you're correct. Yeah. I like the formatting of color on the left. I've seen some of these. Mine is actually kind of similar. I break it out with color on the left and then more content on the right. This is a lot of content, though, is the first thing I want to say. And there's no summary at the top.
The summary is pretty much bulleted, and it is a lot of bullets. It also seems to represent the technical skills, which are reiterated a little bit on the left. So it's a little redundant with some of that. And what ends up happening is because of the formatting, page 2 and page 3 have tons of wasted space.
Yeah.
So if you're going to go this route, you may want to have the first page, honestly, look a little different than the rest, but then that creates a weird lack of uniformity. The certifications obviously being kind of buried on page 3. We all know a lot of people are not getting to page 3. So
nope, not at all.
I would say reformatting with this one in particular, because he might be able to shrink this down to 2 pages with going completely horizontal across. But I do agree. I like the UI of it.
Yeah, I think moving it over. Go ahead.
Something else I was going to say is I looked at like the multiple jobs that he had, and some of them are held at the same company. So what I would do is do like Vodafone and then do the amount of years that he was at that company, and then do the multiple titles that you've held, so it doesn't look like you've moved around a lot in your resume, because the first thing I see is manager, and then you have to go to like you were at this company. But it looks like for a lot of them he was at the same company, so I'd make sure that company's first and do the total dates that you were there. So if you were there from like 2015 to 2021, put that there, and then do your titles with the dates under that company. So it shows your progression, and you're able to see that pretty quickly through the resume.
I like that. That is
it
really
kind of looks like two total companies, basically.
Yeah.
Vodafone and Quest, and like went back and forth kind of between them. And that might be just a product of being in that location that we don't know is a much more typical way of doing things. But no, that's great advice, Dre.
I think the bullet points are really solid. I would suggest, though, expertise, trim this down, and possibly if you're going to keep the summary here, then I would almost consider maybe removing this, making the summary a little bit stronger, or maybe putting the summary up here. But I don't think you need all of this expertise bullet pointed. Figure out a way to summarize it, and then put this, if this is important to, it seems like it probably is because it's up front for him, putting it into your experience somewhere where it actually lies. And then I think 2 pages is max. 2 pages.
Well, there's a lot of little danglers. You see right there, like one word, restored, resolution. Like tweak the writing. You can usually take out one fluff word. There are some bullets in here that are definitely fluff, like understood the importance of patch management.
Yeah.
That isn't, that's great that you understand it, but that is not something that is going to, help you so much. So there is a lot of fluff and a lot of these danglers that he'll be able to save. Honestly, I can see already like 10 to 15 lines on his resume just by tweaking the wording to get one word back up.
All right, let's move on. Moving on to 8. We got a question too. It said, can you italicize for the company, like the company names, easier to read? What do you guys think?
Sure.
Yeah. I like this is a perfect example. It's italicized, but I think that it just breaks it up a little bit. I like it. I like breaking up, kind of changing not so much the font, but the texture of the font from italic versus like the regular, or making it bold. I think it just helps out for the eyes.
Dre used to say, or we're just talking about Dre, when you were talking about combining all of the jobs into one company, that's when I would usually always focus on italicizing the jobs to make it stand out that, hey, these were different jobs, but the same company. That was just one that was not italicized. So there's different ways you can tweak it however you like it. But yeah, italicized, I agree. I like it. I do it all the time.
All right. We've got another question, but we'll get to that as we go through this. So, and this actually is a really good question. I'm going to bring it up now. What is your thoughts on color versus no color? And perfect timing. We have a resume that has color, and mine actually has color in it. So what do you guys think as far as color versus no color resumes?
Mine are pretty, when I send like mine over to a client, they're pretty very like generic and basic looking formatted resumes. So, I mean, the only color we have is like if it's a resume that's specific to our company, and it's like the lines, but I don't think makes a big difference on if it's colored or not. I mean, you also have to think people are looking through them pretty quickly. I think if you're doing something within UI, UX, something that's very design focused, you want your resume to stand out. You want to have that color. You want it to be very designed, but I don't think it makes a big difference if it has color or if it's black and white.
Got it. Okay, cool. So let's jump into this. As far as like skills on the right, I think my first impression, I like it. It's a different format, but I think it could be a little bit formatted differently to tell a better story, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think, because it just seems kind of like, do I start here on the left and then go to the right? At least that was my first impression.
Fitting all of this in one page they did a good job of figuring that out.
Agreed.
It is a lot to kind of figure out where I want to give my attention. But I mean, I think there's some great qualities about this resume that it is very different. This is not like a resume at all that I would format and create, like Dre was saying, and turn into a client. Like I would never turn something like this in, but I don't mind seeing this at all. I actually like at the very top that this person specified their sort of visa or work visa status, the blue card holder. To me, there's a lot of times that recruiters, they don't want to call people because they make assumptions and then they get nervous. And like, when you actually know exactly what a person's work authorization situation is, that can help you to make a decision quickly and or to give the sound advice, and even to be able to go to Darmang and say, hey, listen, I know these types of companies are the ones that they actually will work with it. I don't. You may want to divert your attention to them. And so I like that this person did that right off the bat.
Love that. Sorry.
Yeah. Something I would remove is I always remove like achievements and tasks or like responsibilities under the not there, but under the like job, unless you're like really detailing like things that you achieved.
Oh, the actual work achievement tasks.
Yeah, where it says like sometimes people put responsibilities, and I usually just take that out because we know those are your responsibilities. Like in a sales generated resume, I have my accomplishments broken out because it's, very based off of numbers and things like that. So I'll do achievements, or if I won any awards during my tenure at that job, I'll separate those. But I tend to usually just remove achievements, tasks, or responsibilities under the job responsibilities. Not like on the side where they have achievements, that's great. But I think that's just adding like a couple lines that don't really need to be there.
Absolutely.
What do you guys think about the summary? I've always heard that this should be written in third person, like instead of I have 5 years of InfoSec experience. It's more of like possess 5+ years of InfoSec, like something like that, right?
They could literally just take out I am having and just have 5+ years of InfoSec experience and leave it at that.
Great Perfect. Project. And yeah, absolutely. I usually advise that for sure.
All right, cool. Next one. Let's move on. Moving on. Number 9. We're getting through it. All right. Ooh, kind of like that. Yeah. Whoa. It always does that. Like it's real close to me. So I'm like first, and this doesn't have any color, but I think like it pops. It's a really good job how they did that. First thought though, I think they could have definitely
I am security.
Said a little bit more here. Yeah, I am security. Let me see what they put. Okay, so this is pen tester. Yeah, that's it. So pen tester.
I would, for the graduation dates, just if you graduated recently, just leave the month and year you graduated. You don't need to put the amount of like from 2019 to 2023. Just put when you graduated, and leave it at that. And then if it's something that wasn't recent, Joe, I think you mentioned it before, taking the dates off completely.
Yeah. You can tell this is the same format as the one before. It's got that same achievement / task little subtitle. But right there, the first bullet under the internship. And the internship is obviously going to be something that should be a big strength for this person to get a job, but that practical cybersecurity experience, web security, network security, totally leaving a lot to be desired there. And there seems to be some space to elaborate on those, but practical cybersecurity experience, go ahead and ask a recruiter who just started in cybersecurity recruiting, what is practical cybersecurity experience? They couldn't even tell you what it means. So they're not going to interpret that as anything valuable. And if you're going to be talking about pen testing, that's a great opportunity to start using the tools. What did you use the tools for? Anything to do with a report? Did you get a chance to actually sit in a debrief call? Anything that involves the day-to-day life of a pen tester. We know web security and network security are part of it, but tell the story. So other cool stuff here. I mean, the personal projects are really unique. Somebody on there is some recruiter is going to be an avid chess player.
Yeah.
And is going to see that and be like, all right, sweet, knight to B9 or whatever I'm going to call this guy. And, that could be the link. But then the internship totally leaving stuff to be desired, in my opinion.
I would make the font bigger too, because I have pretty good eyesight, but it is hard to read.
And it's zoomed in. Yeah, you're right. Okay, moving on. 10. Let's knock it out. Ooh, here's this got a lot of content. Let me zoom that in. So this one right here, this one was given to me, and they have a job that they are looking at. Let me see if I can open it. It is an analyst 1 position. I'm just going to bring it up really quickly at Flashpoint. It's an entry-level analyst role.
Says they're looking for Russian native speaking people here. So that's obviously got some good weight, and he's let out on his resume with Russian speaking. So I like that this person did that right off the bat. It was one of the first things I saw that I would say that you can use to your advantage with specific companies. Yep. Absolutely.
Experience shifting through large amounts of data. Okay, I just did a quick look. Let's go back to this right here. What the heck? That's not the one. There we go. Okay, yep. So Russian speaking. That's awesome. Threat intel that I saw OSINT in that. So they've already put that like bottom line up front, already checking a couple of boxes. I think is good there. And then from there, intermediate security associate.
This is a very detailed. Yeah. I love for the amount of time, because this is a pretty junior level person, right? There's not a whole lot of experience before this from what I recall. Can you scroll down on that one?
Yeah, I'm looking at the notes. So 2021, so front desk manager. Yeah, so this was the developing consultant, incident response efforts. They weren't doing really cyber here, and it looks like here's when they started, which was just in 2021. And this is how they've outlined their experience. I think they honestly, in my opinion, like this is really impressive with projects and then how they've been broken them out, especially like BEC is such a big space. But I guess my question to you guys would be, this is good, but I would look at the job and make sure that these are relevant, because this might be good data, but it may not be fully aligned with the job that they're going after.
Yeah. Knowing who does BECs, for example, there's a lot of these smaller firms that they're selling them for $7,000 to $7,500 a pop. Those keep the lights on, and they definitely need people that are comfortable and ready to jump in and be the ones that knock those out. Because those are, like I said, those are the ones that keep the bills paid. But the business email compromise and incident response combination, when they're talking about threat intelligence, I mean, there's other jobs that you can be doing. For sure. And we all know that the Russian speaking background, like that can come into play, especially if you're dealing directly with attackers, which some of these firms do. So there's other stuff, but I personally love, like, if I'm a recruiter that's not very educated, this is the type of resume that makes me feel armed to call this person and comfortable that I'm at least on the right track. I actually love what this person did with this resume overall. At least
I read the job listing a little bit more, and it is very much like I take back what I said. I would definitely keep the BEC, because it is a more cyber threat intel position, vulnerability management, vendor risk management, working in as a team, OSINT. So I think everything they have here is really well written, in my opinion. Go ahead, Jerry.
Yeah, I was just going to say I would remove the front desk manager role. And then also at the bottom in languages, it says fluent in English, Russian, and Italian. So at the top of your resume, I would put that you're trilingual, and then in parentheses, put the languages that you are, like Russian, English, Italian, that you're fluent in. Because you speak multiple languages, which is great.
Yep.
And like we said, removing graduation dates here, just keeping it nice and clean. I think
the only thing I'll say for that, though, Jax, is that because this person was a career transitioner, sometimes being able to keep the date of the recent courses that are in the last few years during the transition that says, hey, I didn't take this 10 years ago and then not come back to it. Most people are not going to know what Flatiron School is if they're not doing their research or when it was established. And so that helps to tell the story of a career change and recency for that. So that's the only time I would say that date actually might carry some weight.
I love it. All right, cool. Next one. Let's jump into 11. All right. We are pumping through these. I haven't even looked at the chat in a minute. I'll pull this up and then I'll look in chat. I'll let you guys do the first thoughts on this. So this is the top, and then slowly scrolling. It looks like it's 2 pages. Yep. What do you guys think?
Certifications could be directly to the right of education, to where you then are cutting out like a bunch of lines, and you'll be able to fit a ton of the space. You can see a couple danglers there in the bullets. You could easily just move the bullets all the way to the left side. Etc. will fit, systems will fit. You just freed up 2 spaces, and then you could decrease the space between, the company experiences by 1 line or so. And through those, you're going to save 5-6 lines, and you could start moving stuff up to get more projects on the page. But I think moving the certifications parallel to the education in this spot would be good. And no summary. Where's the summary? I think we need to set up like some sort of like crime and punishment deal here with resumes that don't have a summary, because you just don't have a chance to really tell your story, you know, to be human, to tell people who you are, what you're interested in. So
that actually, I'm going to bring up a question because I was going to ask it next. Two people have asked this. So I'm going to bring up the first question, and then there's just another question about the same thing. Kathy, you're the best. Could you expand on what should go into the summary? This is such a great question. She sees a lot of summaries that don't seem to really add value. And then the next one was, should every resume have a summary? So I'm going to give the first part of that question to Joe and the second part to Jare. So can you expand on what should go into a summary?
Yeah. Well, I think that it's your chance to really highlight what it is that you bring to the table that's relevant for the job and or the company. You know, if you're a military veteran, for example, and you know that this organization is high on that, come right out with that. A military veteran with this amount of years of experience. But I think highlighting the important stuff with as little fluff as possible. There are a billion adjectives out there that I think are just getting overused, and they add zero value, and they take up space, and people sit there and spend time trying to come up with fluff sentences that add no value. And so I think it's a chance to be very personal about the journey you're on, the skills or the job that you're trying to go for, what you've been training on recently. You know, if you don't want to say I'm going for my CSSP specifically in the search section, you can mention that in the summary and get away with it. And that's the only time you mention it, for example. So I think having, like, I used to tell people, go give this to your wife, ask her to read this and feel if this is if this sounds like you, or vice versa. You know, like, ask your people around you, describe me. How would you describe me as a professional? Ask your teammates to describe you as a professional. Take some notes and then start to build a summary that you feel good really represents you.
I love that answer. All right, Jare, what do you think? Should every resume have a summary?
Yeah, and I would focus that on your past experience and what you're looking to get into. So if any of your past experience is like going to the career or the next job that you want to, really highlighting on that and putting that on your summary. So I think every resume has a summary. Typically, when I'm sending a resume over to my client, I highlight if there's, you know, they're like, we want 5 years of SOC analysts and, you know, whatever the requirements are for that particular job, I highlight it on top of their resume, and it's something quick and brief. And then I send it over to the client just so they can see what they've done, and then also what they're looking for, why they're currently in the job market. So it kind of highlights all of that. And it's something that's not brief and doesn't take up too much of the resume.
Perfect. I love that. So
one other item on this one, and it's something that I've seen. You see here where it says Security Blue Team expected December 2023. Totally cool to have that, but make sure that you have like a calendar reminder or something to go back and update that after December, or if you didn't get it, because you could be setting yourself up for a very embarrassing, awkward moment. If they're like, hey, I saw that, you know, it's January 2024. Did you get that last month? And you're like, oh man, I totally forgot to edit that. So if you do put a calendar reminder on your calendar to just say, go back and edit it or update your resume.
I would remove it, me personally, so I don't have to worry about it, but I agree with that. Dre, anything else you want to add to this before we move on to the next one?
So like in some of your bullet points, I think it said at the top, troubleshooting, what issues were you troubleshooting? It looks like computers, printers, routers. Were you using any ticketing systems? How were you going about troubleshooting those issues? So just elaborating on some of those bullet points.
Agree. Okay. Awesome. By the way, shout out to George in the house. By the way, everyone, on LinkedIn, for some reason, StreamYard is not letting me make comments to LinkedIn, but I see you. I hear you.
George.
Thanks for all those shout outs. Yeah, George is awesome. Oh my God.
So glad I got to meet him a couple weeks ago. That was really cool.
Somebody said Joe Hudson is I don't know what that is, but
it's a GOAT, which stands for the goober of all time.
You're really loved in the chat. So, all right, let's get back to it. All right, we only have a couple more. So we're on number 12 right now. First thoughts on this. We've got name right here. Email is kind of the header. I'm not a huge fan of the coloring. It's a little hard. I think it should be black, not this kind of grayish. And I think this should be like dark blue, or my very first thoughts aesthetically. But I do like it's on one page. How did he get it on one page? That is a lot of content. Like, I'm impressed.
Paper's bigger in India. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
You're right. I agree, though. The coloring, it feels like I need to rub my camera a little bit, or that there's like a smoke fog sort of in front of this resume. It is a little tough to pop. I agree that fitting all this on here is interesting. There's a couple little tiny things that, I do not need to like over stress, but like you see the very top where M Tech, the master's in tech is like one line tabbed in from the line below, and then it does it again below. And like that is such a minute detail that people should not lose sleep over. But it is something that I was drawn to. And if it takes half a second to fix it and get it aligned, take the half a second. It would be the only advice I'd get.
Yeah. Those little things matter.
I would put the work experience at the bottom and then move a lot of like the computing experience, computing skills up, or put that as like technical skills. And I would move some of that stuff up and then move the work experience down, because it also has experience in leadership roles. So I don't know if those are at different companies or if those were at your school. If you have anything that was, something that was like leadership roles within school, I would put that under your education, and you can kind of group some of those together.
There's some great stuff down here for project undertaking. Like first look at it right here. I'm just seeing deployed online database. And he talks about creating using various web technology like Python, HTML. Like this is good stuff. So I think if project undertaken, if they can't fall under your work experience, I would consider putting them under maybe, is it like experience leadership roles, or maybe under your computing skills, like figure out a way of like highlighting these better. And I don't think they need to be at the bottom if they're specifically related to the cybersecurity role you're going after.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff I would move up and then move your experience down, because that's most relevant to where you're wanting to go.
Yep.
I'd take the experience off the bullet points as well. That kind of threw me off a little bit. And I did not interpret that as professional experience, mainly because I'm just not used to seeing it bulleted. But I would get rid of the bullets, have it just move to the left. And then, you'll have more space, but also that did just throw me off a little bit. I did not even notice that was the the professional experience.
Agree. All right, let's move into 13. By the way, Kev Tech in the house. Good to see you, bud. This is I don't know if you're still in chat, but yeah, it's been over a year, but it's good to see you. Thanks for the support. All right. Vic Coomer. All right. Let me see if Vic left me a message. Cybersecurity analyst role. So that's what he is looking to obtain. This is the overall resume. First look. Trying to see key responsibilities. So it looks like his career history. So level 2 IT support analyst. He's been there for quite a long time at McDonald's.
It's good.
Yeah.
I would, the second bullet, help desk, there's a typo in there. It just says help desk. So I'd make sure to proofread
help
that.
Desk, yeah.
HEL
desk.
It says help desk, and then the second one says help desk. So make sure that you're proofreading that before you're putting anything on there. And then under achievements, really elaborating on like where 5% reduction in digital menu board related incidents by identifying trends and finding the root cause. How are you doing that? What does that really mean? How are you identifying those trends can be really valuable. Were you doing that through a certain system or using a certain tool to do that? So like elaborating on that, but having those quantifiable things are great, but really being able to explain them is great as well.
And just the red underlines, even if they're incorrectly underlined, it's still something that you're drawn to. And this is another reason for using the PDFs, obviously, is you're not going to see any red lines. Even if you have a misspelling, you won't see it. So here, it draws attention to it. And even if they're correct, it says micro at the bottom, office is underlined because it's not capitalized, because it recognizes it should be. But like, that's not a huge deal, but at the same time, I'm just seeing a red line. And so when you have red lines, it's like when I was teaching. I mean, it's just naturally not a positive. The degree graduated 2024. So this guy lives in the future. I'd be curious to know like what the world looks like in 2024. So we should definitely reach out to Vic. But that's another detail that you got to be, like, imagine the job that I'm entertaining for this person is in the SOC, and it needs to be extremely detail oriented. And I get a bunch of red lines, and this person graduated in 2024. Like, I know those are small things, but if the role really needs someone detail oriented, and I'm seeing that could be a strike.
Yeah, I agree. And we'll move on after this, but I would just left Justify, move some of this stuff over. There's spacing right
Lots
here.
of space. Yeah.
We can get this into one page easily. So I'd encourage
Absolutely.
putting this all into one page.
Remove references. You don't have to have that on there.
Agreed. They should always be assumed it's available upon request. Otherwise, if they're not available, then you definitely don't want to allude to it. But
Right.
agreed.
Paul Keaston, Keasted, it's good to see you. Philip, good to see you. And then we just had Coastal drop in. What up? That was 13. We're on our last one. All right, last round of questions. If you've got them, drop them in because we're going to wrap after this. All right, so back to the coloring. I would make this darker. I would just black. Maybe if you want to keep the header a different color, but again, it goes back to that. But overall, I think the formatting is really good. I like this. It's kind of like the ones that have the color on the left side, but without the color. So you've got all your contact information, your skills, your interests, but then it provides you your summary, your experience, and then it goes into technical knowledge.
Yeah, I would say the projects too. Where are those projects? Was that within like your volunteer experience? Was that something you were doing on the side? Elaborate on like where you did that.
Yeah, if it's a home lab, that's a big positive.
I didn't tell you to. Sorry. Entry-level SOC analyst position or internship. So that's what they're currently searching for right now. So yeah, SOC analyst. So I would probably do like a really good job of just maybe putting these bullet points up front. What do you guys think about that too? Do you think that it is important that, because I try to always put, what are my most impactful bullet points, put those up front versus later on down, because recruiters sometimes may stop at the first 2 bullet points. Is that an accurate assessment or?
Yeah, I have the most important things up at the top so that you can read through those. Or if someone's looking for particular experience with the technology, that's like the first things that I have on their like responsibilities are under their bullet points.
Yeah.
Like right here, if he's looking to get into currently searching, he may want to consider like this ability to detect and respond to a tier 1 alert in a SOC via SIM and SOAR. Like I think that should probably be right up top.
Yeah. And which tools did you talk about? Like, no matter how you got the experience, if you said ability, so you didn't have expertise, but if I have the ability to detect and respond to blah, 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 with the recruiters, oftentimes they're looking at what tool does this company use, and if they have any familiarity with ArcSight or Alien Vault or whatever it's going to be, that's good to put it on there. Yeah, I agree with Don. But on this one, on the left side, you see where it says education. There's this education that's blocked out, but we see in the summary, this is a high school graduate. I actually love that this person came out and said, I'm a high school graduate. It's great to see eager people jumping right in. And we know that there are some companies that are going to be interested in that too. And you're going to be able to get somebody on the way up with very little financial investment or risk oftentimes. But the way this is written, it just says upcoming and a good team player dedicated to furthering my stance in the cybersecurity industry. In the first line, I'm such and such. Your title already says the name. You don't need to say who I am again. But on the left where it says education and there's nothing there, just get rid of the section. And if you need to include your high school equivalent or whatnot, that's fine. But oftentimes I would just leave it out because it's not something that's going to be the thing that gets you over. Spacing on the left side, probably.
Yep. I was just thinking that. Yeah. Take up the space. If it's here and you want to do it, like space this down, take away the space here, like clean it up a little bit. All right. Jerry, final thoughts on this resume.
I don't think I have any other ones.
All right, cool. We're done.
Darker.
All right.
Make it darker.
Make it darker. Yeah, definitely. All right. So there you have it. Question. We've got a question really quick, and then we're going to do a wrap. What are great pointers for a cover letter? Oh, we didn't even touch on cover letter. I love this question. So what are your thoughts on that? Cover letter, no cover letter? I don't usually do cover letters, but
I don't do cover letters. I think that's what your summary is for. It should pretty much be in there. But I mean, when I do see cover letters, I mean, I'll read them, but it's not like something I'm going to send over to a client or anything like that. So I don't really think cover letters are necessary.
Joe?
Yeah, I would say make sure you have one available or a template available, because some job postings still ask, but very rarely. I would say less than 5% of jobs I've seen, but I have had clients that requested it. And if you are having a hard time telling your story and actually you don't have a lot of experience you have really nothing to lose by using the first page of your resume as the cover letter, whereas they open the resume, the cover letter is actually the first page of your resume. And it's a short blurb that is impassioned. It's very much clear. You have nothing to lose. If you're striking out over and over and over again with your resume alone because you don't have the experience or the credentials, the cover letter is at least worth a shot to where you can articulate your story and try to connect with the people. And you could, especially if the client has something that's really motivating you to apply there. If there's a cause or if there is something that is behind your story that makes you drawn to that specific company, it's worth a shot to have that, I would say. But I agree, like cover letters, I can't think of very many times at all that they've been required.
Yeah. James was saying that he had to do one, I guess. He had to because it was required to submit along with the resume. So it's still out there, not common. People are busy. They don't want to read a cover letter on top of a resume. All right. Final thoughts. I have one question. I want your guys' thoughts on this, and then we're going to wrap. ChatGPT. Some people are using ChatGPT. This might not be the best question at the very end, but we're going to try to do a summarized thoughts on, because I know we've got listeners that are like, oh, what about ChatGPT for a resume to create it? What are your guys' thoughts on maybe not using it to create your resume, but let's better ask the question, what do you think about using it to help you get creative with your bullet points and to help you just build the resume, but you already have the foundation? Joe, what do you think?
I think that if you're struggling, this tool is obviously, I was late to the game in wanting to use it. I'm an old school guy that still, just doesn't use a lot of things that are meant to help me in life. Once I started using it, I realized a lot that I could get out of it in very small doses, and the prompts and you learn to practice on these prompts. That's a skill I promise we're going to be using for the rest of our lives. So by using it now to just see, you have nothing to lose there by trying to see, what can this thing do for me? Can it tell my story better than I can? Or even if there's just small chunks that you can take from it and elaborate upon and kind of make your own, that's still a value add in my opinion. But at the end of the day, I'd still be leaning on human beings to help me evaluate my resume more so, but I definitely wouldn't just turn my back on the tool.
Yeah. Jerry?
Yeah, I would say use it. I think it's helpful. I mean, the other day I was putting out a job for a client, but I didn't have a job description. So I wrote the basis of like what I needed, and it spit out a job description for me. So it was great. I would say use it, but make sure you do have someone review it and review it yourself before you put it anywhere. Make sure it makes sense, make sure it reads well. So I would definitely suggest using it.
Okay, one last question, because I just have to know, this was my first time to get, in a way, like bombarded with resumes. So something I noticed when I was getting all of these resumes, on top of them being either Word or PDF, we've already determined PDF is the best way of submitting a resume. The second thing that I noticed, and I want your opinion on, is how they submitted it as far as naming it. I typically name my resume like my last name dot my first name or something like that to keep it clean. But it was literally, I received them and naming in every different way. When you, as a recruiter, when you receive resumes, do you take that into consideration at all, how the resume is like given to you and how it's named, or does that matter? Should we be more careful?
I don't, like, if they send it to me, they send it to me like in however it's named. But if I'm going to send it over to like a client or someone, I do put their first, last name, and then the year of what they're doing. And then usually like if they're like, looking to get into cyber, or if they're a SOC analyst, I typically put that on the resume. So it's titled, because you are getting like a ton of resumes. And when I save my resume, I always save it as my first, last name, and then the year, before I send it out to anyone. Cause sometimes you'll get my resume, or like, so there are so many different titles, and it's hard to kind of go through that versus having someone's like first and last name and what they're doing. And that's easier to like locate their resume.
Yeah. What do you think, Joe? Thoughts on that at all?
I agree. I mean, everything she said is perfectly fine. I mean, first, last name, last first name, the year definitely works. The only thing that I would mention is that I've received a ton of resumes over the years that when you see the resume come through, you can see the name of the person that they clearly took the template from, and it was saved as another person's resume before. And then for whatever reason, it comes to me and I see the other person's name. That creates immediate doubt that this is an authentic resume, that this was not copy pasted or regurgitated from someone else's background. And so if you're going to create a resume from someone else's template, I recommend you copy paste the content onto a new document. Don't just start saving it, because for whatever reason, it still will show the other person's name saved as part of the file. that sucks when that happens.
Yeah, because you're like, whoops. All right. So with that, I just want to take a moment and thank not only you, amazing co-host, for coming on the show and making this possible, but all of the people in the Outpost Gray community supporting. Like, this was such a great turnout. And I have to also say thank you to Shamin. Again, if I said your name wrong, I apologize. She is the reason that this all came about. So I'm going to put your message up there. But really, it's thank you. Thank you for having the courage to reach out to me and to ask me to be willing, because it really, like, I love to be able to give back to the community. So it means so much that you considered my feedback was valuable. So thank you. Thank you, Joe. Thank you, Jari. You guys are amazing. And that's it. We're going to call it. You guys have anything else to say? No,
just say, Jari, everything you said was like, you're my spirit animal of resumes. I'm not gonna lie. I think I agree with literally every single thing you said today. So pretty cool to see. So honestly, that was the reason we wanted to bring her on, was because you and I are too similar. But I guess
we are.
She's just nailed
I'm glad
it
you
as
agreed
well.
to the last minute. I was like, I told Joe, I reached out to him. I was like, hey, I've got this person, never met her before. Seems cool. She likes pineapple on her pizza. Are you good with?
Yeah.
Are you good? And he was like, hey, boss, your show. I was like, all right, she's coming on. I went, this will either be like wildly successful or a complete train wreck. So I think it went well.
Yeah, it was great. Thanks for having me. And Domino's pineapple pizza, their gluten-free pizza is amazing.
Oh my God. Done.
A lot of people don't like Domino's, but I love them.
Pineapple pizza,
like
pineapple on
Domino's.
pizza is amazing.
Yeah.
All right, we're out. Thanks again, everyone.
Thanks for the invite.
Bye.